And I thought it was a good time to check in with our friend Dianna Russini at The Athletic, senior NFL insider. First of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. This is a really busy time. I know a lot of people get the holidays off. This is actually an incredibly busy time for you. So I know you're squeezing us in, and I appreciate it. I do want to start with something that you've been very hot on, and you know it, the Jet situation. So give me the mindset of a historically impulsive ownership group with Saleh, Hackett, Joe Douglas. Dianna, where are they on all this stuff?
Yeah, I'll get there in a sec. First, I just want to say thank you. You're saving me from having to spend any more time with my family. I've been with them for about 4 days here. You know, Colin, when I was at ESPN, I traveled tons during football weekends. But now I'm a senior insider, so I got my phone, so that helps a lot. So I don't have to travel as much, which is definitely a perk of the job. But that being said, I'm now stuck in this house. So really, thank you. Thank you to everyone at Fox right now for having me, because this has been the best Christmas present ever. But that being said, right, so I live in the New Jersey area. I'm very close to the Jets facility. And this morning, even when I was out picking up some bagels to start the morning, the day after Christmas here, a lot of chatter about what's going on with the Jets and how they barely were able to get a win against the Commanders after right before the pregame started all the hoopla there out on the field. The New York Post reported that Woody Johnson, spoke with them and said, this whole regime is coming back. And Colin, you hear that and you think, how? Why? What has this group done to prove that they deserve to go back out there? Because when you watch what they've done on the field over the last few weeks, at least since Aaron Rodgers went down in week 1, they've had moments of really good play, right? How could you not with a defense like that? But it always just felt when you were around this team that after Aaron went down, they were like, we're good. We'll just wait for next year. And I think that's what the ownership mentality, at least his philosophy is. He's understanding they were put in a really bad position. All the chips were pushed in on Aaron Rodgers. And once Aaron went down, they decided, this year won't really count. We'll get to next year. So now Robert Saleh is going to be the head coach again. And Joe Douglas, of course, will be the general manager. And Colin, you have to wonder, is this a scenario where they're looking around going, all right, we know Aaron's comfortable with him, Robert Saleh, right, Joe Douglas, Nathaniel Hackett. Do we really want to ruffle the feathers here and bring in someone new, even if maybe we don't think Robert's been great this year? And look, bottom line, on everything that happens in New York, it goes back to what Aaron Rodgers wants. And obviously, this is the most comfortable coaching staff through the perception or perspective of the New York Jets. This group is who Aaron Rodgers wants, and this is the group that we'll see next year in Aaron Rodgers' return in New York. All right,
we got some job openings going to happen in the NFL. What is the latest on the job openings in the NFL? Like Washington feels obvious. Raiders, Antonio Pierce did himself a big solid with that effort. So what's the latest, Dianna?
He did. And look, I've had tons of conversations around the league the last few weeks. And, I know everyone wants to know right now, what is the owner doing? What do they want? Are they safe? Are they not? There are situations where there's ownership out there that is still deciding what they want to do. I can tell you for the Raiders, though, they're casting a wide net. Yes, they're very happy with what Antonio Pierce has done. He's won over this locker room. The players want him. The last time we saw a situation like this, Rich Bisaccia was the interim head coach, and it felt right. But he, of course, Mark Davis went on to make that decision to hire Josh McDaniels. And we know that did not work. So he's, of course, making the consideration that maybe Antonio Pierce is the right guy. But this is Las Vegas, right? They want a big name. They always will. And we know who the owner is. So they're going to continue to have conversations outside of who the interim head coach is right now. And they're going to have to do that either way. Yeah. Okay, so then you have the Carolina Panthers. David Tepper, from a couple of the conversations I've had with people who've been talking to him about what this year has been, because it's been bad, right? And he pulled the Band-Aid on it all right after Thanksgiving, firing Frank Reich, knowing, you know what? I've got the number 1 overall draft pick in Bryce Young, and this looks atrocious, and you're the problem. I need to fix it. We did a whole piece on the dysfunction in Carolina. And from what I was told, David Tepper knows he messed up. And he wants to make this right. And he's going to try to be very patient in terms of gathering the amount of information for the next head coach he picks. But his eyes are once again on Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator in Detroit, who we know was his number one choice last year. Washington, look, you said it. I hate talking about it as if it's going to happen, but it is, right? So this is new ownership. It's a new organization. And there's buzz, right? When was the last time you and I had a conversation about the Washington Commanders and once the Washington Redskins, obviously, is their old name, saying that they were the destination spot, the team that a coach wanted to be part of? Well, now, coaches that I'm talking to, coordinators that want an opportunity, they believe that this is a destination spot, right? Their roster's not that bad. They've got a bunch of draft picks coming up. They just got to figure out what they're going to do with the quarterback position, whether or not Sam Howell is the answer or not. And then New England, right? Right now, we're all still waiting to see what they decide. Tons of chatter, tons of whispers. But from what I can gather, no decision has been made just yet. Yeah,
Belichick, I read, I think over the weekend, has come to terms with his future is unsettled there. So we'll take a wait and see. I'm watching Baker Mayfield, who's always played well when he has confidence and he has a good cast around him. And he's playing well, and I'm happy for him. Tampa now is probably going to make the playoffs, meaning they don't get a great draft pick. They could cobble together some draft picks and some players. They have some good personnel and move up in the draft. But my guess is they're not going to get one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks, and they don't want to gut their franchise and their draft capital. So, Dianna, is Baker, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Is he the future for the next couple of years? Like, what's going on with Baker and his opportunities?
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world at all. And I don't think Tampa Bay believes it's the worst thing at all. Colin, a few weeks ago, when I was digging on what the Tampa Bay Bucs organization was going to look like at the end of this season, it was my understanding that it was going to look very different. They were going to gut it out. They were going to get a new head coach, perhaps a new GM. And look how much this has changed in just a matter of weeks, thanks to Baker Mayfield, right? And I remember during free agency, and I was sitting with my former colleague, Adam Schefter at ESPN, when Baker Mayfield was making a decision of where he wanted to play. And there were a few teams out there that wanted Baker's services at the time. And Tampa pushed hard to get him into their organization. And at the time, I was a bit like you, wondering why. Why Baker? Why are they have so much confidence and belief? He kind of showed us what he was. And this is a guy that's got to step in for Tom Brady. And I can tell you the laugh is definitely on me for not believing in what Baker can do. And they've really been able to find the best in him. And Baker always plays his best when we doubt him. We being all the fans out there that don't believe that perhaps maybe he is that guy. So Tampa believes that he can be the guy. And how could they not? Because perhaps this quarterback saves some of their jobs.
Yeah. By the way, finally, the Harbaugh situation, I was told last week from somebody I trust, is the Chargers would like to shed the reputation because they don't think it's true that they're cheap. And they're going to go after Belichick or they're going to go after Harbaugh. And that, their takeaway is, listen, at the time, Brandon Staley was up for the Eagles job. That's the reason we went and got him, not because he was cheap. And true to fight, Staley was up for the Eagles job. So they want to shed that image. And I do think Harbaugh is sitting there thinking, listen, I've done the NFL. You got to have a quarterback. Chargers do. What are you hearing, though? Because Jim wants some control. What are you hearing from your NFL sources finally on the Harbaugh situation? Jim's smart enough to know. He watches his brother. If you don't have a star quarterback, it's really hard to win in this league. He can win, Dianna, he can win 11 games at Michigan, 3 out of 4 years, without a superstar quarterback. So what are you hearing on him?
Colin, I have a brother-in-law who's very, very cheap, and he hates that we call him cheap, right? Because he's really trying to beat it. He makes a lot of money, actually. There is no reason why he should be cheap. But you know what he gave me for Christmas yesterday?
What?
A gravy
ladle.
Boat. What do I need a gravy boat? I'm Italian. I have 15 of them, right? So he's not changing the perception of what he is because he hasn't shown us. So until I believe the Chargers go out there and really bring in and catch that big fish. And I understand the Eagles were in on Brandon Staley. I remember when that was all happening, Howie was trying to bring him there. And they made that move, and they stayed patient with him, and they believed in what he was selling them at the time. And maybe there was a little too much of growth too quickly there. But Jim Harbaugh wants to come back to the NFL. I can tell you that. I've had numerous discussions this entire season about he wants to come back to the NFL and coach. But he is smart, and he's been in positions where he hasn't had a quarterback, and he's been in positions where he has. And if you look at all the teams, all the openings that are going to be out there, the Charger situation sounds the best. It looks the best on paper. You take out some of the roster situations, some of the cap problems that they have, because they do have some money issues in terms of players, right? The Chargers job last year, Colin, was the dream spot. I would say he's almost a year late on it. You know, that last year would have been the time when he wanted in on it. But that being said, he's a talented coach who I believe can get the best out of Justin Herbert. We'll just see if the Spanos believe he's the right guy here to give this organization some identity, some consistency, and perhaps they can change that reputation they have of being cheap and give the organization and the team the tools they need to keep up with the rest of that division.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.